In Horizon Europe projects, you may encounter various types of agreements. Some types are part of the projects on a regular basis, while others occur less frequently. Certain agreements are specific to a particular part of the Horizon Europe program, while others are tailored to specific types of project participants. This course aims to provide you with a solid understanding of the nature of each agreement and their relationships. Let's have a look at the timeline of a typical consortium project. It starts with the announcement of the topic of your interest for which you are going to prepare the proposal. The first two contracts on the timeline you might come across relate to the relationships between consortium partners during the project proposal preparation phase. The non-disclosure agreement helps build trust and ensures that all parties feel comfortable sharing information with each other. The Memorandum of Understanding formally outlines the preliminary terms agreed upon by the parties. Further details on contracts between partners are described in Module 2. Now moving further along the timeline, after preparing and submitting your project proposal, you have been selected for funding. Before the project begins, two major contract types are to be addressed: the grant agreement and the consortium agreement. The grant agreement serves as the cornerstone and the primary source of rules for your project. It is concluded between the beneficiaries and the grant provider. The grant provider and the beneficiaries have clear and straightforward core obligations. The grant provider provides the financing, and the beneficiaries carry out the project as outlined in the grant agreement following its defined conditions. The grant agreement is a complex legal document built on the Model Grant Agreement. We will dedicate Module 1 of this course to it. The model for the grant agreement is part of a broader legal framework. It reflects the EU regulation on the financial rules applicable to the general budget of the Union, and implements the rules from the EU regulation establishing Horizon Europe, also known as the Rules for Participation. If we zoom out even further, the foundation for this legal framework is the Treaty on Functioning of the EU, where member states empowered the EU to support research and innovation and set the basic rules for those activities. The consortium agreement is concluded between the beneficiaries and possibly also other project participants, such as associated partners or affiliated entities. It outlines their mutual rights and obligations and elaborates on certain provisions in the grant agreement. Specifics about the consortium agreement are included in Module 2. Understanding the differences and relationship between the grant agreement and the consortium agreement is essential. One key difference is the parties involved. The grant provider is not party to the consortium agreement, and similarly, an associated partner or other third parties to the consortium agreement are not required to be parties to the grant agreement. Another important point is the hierarchy between these two contracts. The grant agreement is the legal cornerstone of your project and takes precedence over the consortium agreement in case of conflicting provisions. However, certain provisions in the grant agreement explicitly allow beneficiaries to deviate from them. Those only apply if the beneficiaries don't agree otherwise. For example, Article 13.1 of the grant agreement governs the handling of sensitive information, stating, unless otherwise agreed between the parties, they may use sensitive information only to implement the agreement. If the beneficiaries decide to include a provision in the consortium agreement allowing them to use sensitive information also for internal research, they are permitted to do so, because the provision at hand in the grant agreement explicitly allows deviations. In addition to the main agreements, you may encounter various other agreement types in Horizon Europe projects, including contracts specific for MSCA projects, supplementary agreement with the principal investigator in ERC projects. These contracts will be addressed in Module 4 of this course. Joint ownership agreement related to project results. Contracts specific for European partnerships. Contracts specific for EIC projects are reflected in separate Horizon Academy course. Contracts between beneficiaries and other participants of the action. More details in Module 3. And intellectual property agreements and material transfer agreements. Finally, let's summarize the content of this course.